I want to tell you about the exact lie that made me realize my sister and I were never actually going to see eye to eye on this. Not really, not ever. And here's the strange part. It wasn't even a lie she told me. It was a lie she told my own stepfather, on my behalf, about my own wedding, without asking me a single thing first. She told him I'd changed my mind and decided I wanted him to walk me down the aisle after all. I never said that. I never came anywhere close to saying that. I'd been completely clear about it for months. And by the time I actually found out she'd told him that, the damage was already sitting there in his face, in the very real hope she'd put there for absolutely no reason. Hope I was going to have to walk in and take away from him myself, because of something my own sister decided to hand him without asking me first. To understand why that particular lie hit as hard as it did, you have to go back to when I was 9 years old. That's how old I was when my biological father died. My sister was only 2 at the time, barely old enough to form a single memory of him on her own. 2 years after that, our mom remarried, and I was 11 when my stepfather officially came into the picture. Here's the part people don't always think through with blended families and age gaps like ours. The ones where one kid remembers the original parent clearly and the other one basically doesn't. My sister and I grew up forming completely different relationships with the man who ended up raising us, simply because we started from 2 completely different starting points in our own lives. She was young enough that our stepfather effectively became the only father figure she has any real, clear memory of. To her, he is dad. Full stop. No qualifiers. The best guy in the world. Someone she would defend without a second of hesitation to anyone who questioned it. I was old enough, though, to remember my actual father clearly. His voice. His face. Specific mornings. The version of what a dad felt like that existed fully formed before any of this ever happened. My stepfather never replaced any of that for me. And if I'm honest, he was never going to. Not because he ever did anything wrong toward me personally, but simply because that particular spot in my life wasn't open anymore, and hadn't been in years. He married my mother. He didn't marry me. He didn't raise me for nearly as long as my actual father did before he passed, and no amount of time or effort afterward was ever going to change the fact that somebody else already, permanently, held that specific role in my memory. That's not a knock on him as a person. It's just the truth of how memory and grief actually work when you're old enough to have them fully formed already. That fundamental difference in how each of us related to him simmered quietly under the surface for years, and it didn't always stay quiet. At one point, years before any of this wedding drama started, my sister actually cut off contact with my father's entire extended family, our aunts, our uncles, our grandparents, the people who genuinely knew him personally, who could tell you real stories about him. She told them, more or less, that she hoped they'd eventually come around and accept our stepfather the same way she had, since apparently they weren't willing to, in her own words, come to terms with who our real father was now. That fight dragged on for weeks between everyone involved. She accused me directly of being too influenced by my dad's side of the family, of refusing to give our stepfather the credit and recognition she personally thought he deserved after everything he'd done for us. She told me flatly that it wasn't normal to still feel distant from someone who helped raise you for most of your life. I didn't agree with her then, and I still don't agree with her now, but we eventually patched things up enough to keep functioning as a family on the surface, showing up for holidays, being civil, that sort of thing. Small moments kept reopening the wound underneath it, though. On the 20th anniversary of my father's death, I posted something online just to honor him. Nothing directed at anyone else, nothing about our stepfather at all, just about my dad. My sister took it personally anyway. She said it felt like it invalidated our mother's husband somehow, like remembering my own father was some kind of statement against the man who raised her. I held my ground on that one. He only ever became her father, in the way that matters. He never became mine, and pretending otherwise for the sake of peace felt like erasing something I wasn't willing to erase. Then wedding planning started, and I made my actual position clear from the very beginning, calmly, directly, to every single person involved, well before anyone could claim later that they didn't know. My stepfather would not be walking me down the aisle. He wouldn't hold any special role in the ceremony at all. He would be there as my mother's +1, acknowledged politely during a toast, and that would be the full extent of his involvement. I genuinely thought that was reasonable. I thought I'd made it unmistakably, completely clear to everyone at the table. My sister apparently decided otherwise anyway, because behind my back, without a single conversation with me first, she told my stepfather directly that I'd changed my mind, that I'd finally come around after everything and wanted him to walk me down the aisle after all. She started an entire situation, an entire confrontation between me and my own mother, over something I had never said and never once agreed to. When I finally found out what she'd actually done, we had it out completely, no holding back on either side. She claimed she was only trying to get me to, in her own exact words, do the right thing, as though though my actual, clearly stated wishes about my own wedding were just some obstacle standing between everyone and the outcome she personally wanted. That's the moment I told her plainly that if she didn't stop pushing this, I would leave her off the guest list entirely. She did not take that well, not even a little. She told me I had always resented her for loving our stepfather, for refusing to let our real father be her father when she could instead have someone alive who genuinely wanted the role. She said I had ruined our family. She said I was choosing a dead man over someone who was still here, still trying, still showing up. I told her the truth as plainly and as calmly as I could manage in that moment, that I couldn't just transfer my love for my father onto someone else simply because she needed me to for her own peace of mind, and that I definitely couldn't love someone who had quietly tried to take a place that was never actually open to begin with. She got furious. She started cursing at me, called me a name I won't repeat here, and I ended the conversation right there and walked away from it. I haven't really engaged with her much since. She keeps reaching out anyway, telling me I can't keep her away from my own wedding, that none of this is fair to her, that she loves me and doesn't want to miss watching her only sister get married. Part of me genuinely hears that, and it does something to me every time she says it. Some old, automatic pull toward just fixing it, smoothing it over, being the bigger sister the way I always have been. Most of me, though, is still picturing the exact look on my stepfather's face when he found out the hope he'd been carrying around for weeks was never actually real, and that my own sister had been the one to hand it to him. When I eventually posted all of this to Reddit's AITA community, mostly just looking for some kind of outside, less emotionally involved read on the whole situation, the response leaned heavily in one clear direction. A lot of people zeroed in on the fact that this had stopped being a simple disagreement about feelings a long time ago, that it was really about my sister making a unilateral decision on my behalf about my own wedding, and then lying directly to another person's face just to make that decision stick, without my knowledge. Several commenters actually pushed the idea further than I had personally taken it myself, suggesting that if my sister genuinely couldn't respect a boundary that clearly stated, maybe she shouldn't have been the only name I was reconsidering on that guest list in the first place. I hadn't really thought about it from that particular angle until people started saying it out loud in the comments, and if I'm being honest, it's been sitting with me pretty heavily ever since I read it. Since I originally posted this story, things have actually escalated even further instead of settling down. My mother and my stepfather are now both off the guest list too, which is a direct result of the fallout from my sister's lie and everything that came after it, including the fact that my mother ended up siding pretty firmly with my sister through most of the actual fighting. I never set out for any of this to spiral into disinviting half my own family from my own wedding day. I genuinely just wanted one single, clearly stated boundary to be respected by the people closest to me. Instead, I've ended up watching that one boundary quietly take out half the guest list around it, one relationship at a time, almost like a chain reaction I never actually meant to start. What sticks with me the most out of all of this, honestly, isn't even the lie itself anymore. It's the realization that my sister and I were never actually arguing about the aisle, or the toast, or who technically stands were during a 20-minute ceremony. We were arguing about two completely different versions of grief that never really got the chance to exist in the same room at the same time. Hers for a father she barely remembers having at all, and mine for one I still remember completely, clearly, in full. I genuinely don't know how you reconcile something like that between two people, and I'm not sure a wedding day was ever going to be the place where it actually got solved, no matter what anyone decided about who walks down which aisle. So I'll leave you with the same question I still don't have a clean answer for myself. If protecting one honest boundary ends up costing you half your family standing at the altar, was that boundary ever really the actual problem here, or was it just the first thing brave enough to finally break under all that weight?